Gojo is a high school loser who doesn't have any friends and spends his free time making dolls in his grandpa's Hina doll shop. However, his life suddenly changes when the popular and cute high school girl, Marin Kitagawa, asks him to make cosplay dresses for her since she's a massive weeb. A young boy admiringly stares at a bunch of dolls, so his grandpa asks if he thinks they're awesome, and he says they're the prettiest things in the world. His grandfather told the boy, Wakana Gojo, that he can become as good as him if he practices, but a girl annoyingly asks Gojo why he plays with dolls despite being a boy and runs away. Presently, an older Gojo wakes up and happily says good morning to a doll's face. He goes down and greets his grandpa, who asks why he was working late last night and if he's sure he's getting enough sleep, so he says he got into the rhythm of it, and before he'd realized, he'd made quite a few, but he still can't paint them as well as him. His grandpa reminds him that he's been doing this for 48 years and tells Gojo to take it easy since he's still a high school student. He asks Gojo if he's got any friends, which catches him off guard. Gojo hurriedly says he does have friends, but they all have club activities, so they can't hang out much. Later, Gojo walks to school alone and inwardly apologizes to his grandpa since he hasn't made any friends in high school either. He wonders how he could have friends when his dream is to become a Hina doll artisan, and there's no way he can talk to other people with that kind of hobby. He remarks that it'd be better if he just disappeared before a girl suddenly falls on his desk and hits her head. Her friends hurry over and ask if she's okay, so she apologizes to Gojo. Gojo recognizes her as Kitagawa Marin before she notices a bruise on his arm. However, he embarrassingly says it's nothing and remarks that that's ink on his arm. He remarks that Marin is a cheerful person with many friends and lives in a different world from him. He overhears Marin telling her friends about how she hates people who don't respect someone else's likes, and Gojo remarks that it must be nice to live in a world where other people accept you as you are. Later, as Gojo is cleaning the class, Marin enters as well and starts helping Gojo clean. She annoyingly sees that the other guys just dumped all their work on him and says they're using him, so he needs to tell people how he feels. Several days later, as Gojo is working, he accidentally cuts his finger and remarks that he can't get what Marin said to him out of his mind. He admits she was right in that he always suppresses his emotions and sees that the sewing machine has stopped working. Later, as he's lying in bed, he wishes that he had at least finished the piece, but he suddenly remembers something. The next day after school, Gojo heads to the handicrafts club and happily finishes the piece there, telling the doll to look forward to the clothes he's sewing for her. Does bro not think that's a bit weird? However, Marin suddenly enters the room and watches him in shock. Flustered, Gojo accidentally drops his doll and apologizes to it as Marin continues to watch him in shock. She happily asks if he can use a sewing machine and asks where he learnt it from, so he reveals that his family runs a Hina doll shop. Marin asks if she can see the doll and happily says it's really pretty, so Gojo remarks that this is the first time he's shown someone his hobby. He reveals that his grandpa made this, and he can't really make anything but the clothes. Hearing this, Marin suddenly starts unbuttoning her shirt and asks him to face the other way, so Gojo embarrassingly agrees. Puzzled, he alarmingly wonders what's going on before Marin says he can turn around. Gojo sees that she's wearing a black dress, so she nervously says it's still a work in progress and asks what he thinks. He asks what she means, so she shows him a photo of a character and says she tried to replicate that outfit. Stunned, Gojo questions if she's messing with him, so she insists that she's not. However, Gojo says this looks nothing like the dress in the photo and starts pointing out all the problems in the dress she's sewn. However, he suddenly notices that she looks upset and gets down on his knees to apologize. Marin assures him that she's really not mad and reveals that she made this because she wants to cosplay. She reveals that she doesn't have a sewing machine at home, which is why she's been working here after school. Marin asks Gojo if he will make clothes for a cosplay and says she'll understand if he doesn't want to, but she doesn't think she can do any better by herself, and she really wants to be Shizuku, the character. Recalling how enthusiastic she was about his talent, he agrees but says he hasn't made clothes for people, so he doesn't know if he'll do a good job. Hearing this, Marin happily starts jumping around, so Gojo remarks that he never thought he'd reach an understanding with her. He sees that she really wants to be like the character, so Marin confirms this and says it's Shizuku from the lewdly miraculous lives of the rich girls of the Disgrace Club at St. Moist Girls Academy 2, which leaves Gojo stunned. Gojo tells Marin he's not well versed in these things, so she explains that Moy Girl 2 is a super popular blockbuster dating sim from last year in which the main character gets enrolled into an all-girls academy and gets his own harem. As she continues explaining, Gojo gets more and more confused and believes she must be teasing him. However, when he notices her expression, he realizes she's dead serious. As Marin continues expressing her admiration for Shizuku, Gojo sees that she seems really happy talking about the things she loves. Gojo mutters that he thought girls don't like those sorts of games, but she says being a girl or boy shouldn't matter when it comes to things you love, and he determinedly agrees. He decides to look up where to start for the details, but she whips out a book and hands it to him. After reading it a bit, Gojo says they'll have to do some shopping for the materials and says it's already late today and tomorrow is Saturday, so they'll have to go on Monday. Marin agrees and smilingly thanks him. Later, as Gojo is lying on his bed, his grandpa enters and asks if he's going to sleep already, and he confirms this, so his grandpa says he won't be home tomorrow since he has to buy a sewing machine. Once he's gone, Gojo gets up and takes a look at the book again, but he suddenly realizes something. The next morning, Marin unexpectedly appears on Gojo's doorstep, so he questions how she's here. She says she couldn't wait until Monday and looked up his shop. She gives him a cheesecake and walks in. When she opens his door, she says his room screams him and asks why he uses such thin brushes for his dolls. Seeing her, Gojo alarmingly remarks that his heart is beating too loudly since this is the first time that a girl's been in his room. He hurriedly tries to calm himself down so that he doesn't offend Marin, but she suddenly snaps him out of it and says they should get down to taking her measurements, which Gojo is probably very excited for. She tells him to get to it, but he embarrassingly asks if she can get someone else to do that since the book he borrowed said he should take her measurements in her underclothes. Marin cheerily says that's no problem and reveals that she bought a swimsuit today, which leaves Gojo stunned. She asks if he's alright, so he hurriedly asks her to not touch him right now. As he tentatively starts measuring, Gojo asks if she doesn't feel embarrassed to be standing here in a swimsuit in front of him. She cheerily asks what she should be embarrassed for when they're doing it, so that she can't transform into Shizuku. Hearing this, Gojo slaps himself, remarking that it's rude of him to respond to her passion with these impure thoughts. He apologizes and tells her to not worry about it, and swiftly starts taking her measurements. She asks if he can also measure her feet, since they'll have to work with something from a shop, so he decides to go get a chair, but she sits down on his mattress and says this is perfect. He hurriedly begs her to get off his filthy bed sheets, but she tells him to stop worrying and get to measuring. Once Gojo is warily done with measuring her feet, Marin asks if circumference is up next and tells him to do it. He nervously keeps denying, so he hurriedly agrees to measure it right. She agrees to measure her chest size and says they should call it 20 centimeters, hearing which Gojo's mind goes blank. Once they're done, Gojo remarks that he's pathetic for getting worked up over every single thing. He inwardly tells himself he should be more like Marin, since she never gets fazed by anything, but he suddenly notices that her face is flushed and asks if something's wrong, but she hurriedly says it's not like that. He realizes the room might be too hot for her and goes to turn on the air conditioner. Later, Marin gets ready to leave, so Gojo asks if she has any reference material since he wants to examine the finer details, so she cheerily hands him the discs for Moe Girl 1 and 2 so that he can understand the story better. Later in the night, Gojo's grandpa returns to see him intensely watching Moe Girl, but Gojo doesn't seem to notice any issue and informs him that dinner is ready, so his grandpa mutters that he bought a new sewing machine. As he closes the door, he remarks that it's good that Gojo is finally showing interest in girls, but he wonders why he's watching it with such a serious expression. He slightly opens the door and shockingly realizes he's taking notes as well. Marin happily tells Gojo she's super happy with the suit he's made for her, and slowly mutters that when she cosplays a character, she starts to feel like them, so she lewdly asks him to look at her. Gojo hurriedly wakes up from his dream and tells the doll face to turn around for a moment. At school, Gojo hears the students praising Marin and tries to calm his heart down, but she cheerily calls out to him from across the hallway and says she made some progress towards becoming Shizuko. Marin's friend appears beside them and asks what they're talking about. Gojo tries to remember her name, so she reveals that it's Nayo, and the others come over to greet him as well. As Marin is heading to class with her friends, Gojo remarks that she's kind to him even in school. Gojo overhears some students gossiping about whether or not Marin is dating him, and tries to avoid her all day, but she catches him once they're done with school, and asks if he wants to go shopping for the materials today. He apologizes since he can't go today and suddenly runs away. As he's hiding near a park, he slowly apologizes to Marin,
I don't know. I'm sorry.
who suddenly appears beside him and says he shouldn't have run away if he was actually sorry. She tells him to just say what problem he has, so he mutters that people might think they're acquaintances, so they shouldn't hang out with each other in school. Hearing this, Marin asks if they aren't already friends and teasingly asks if he wants to go out with her. She grabs his hand and excitedly says they're going shopping. As they're in the shop, Gojo hands her a reference sheet for the dress and starts explaining everything. She smilingly gives him a packet of money. Once they're done buying the cloth, Marin says they're gonna Swallowtail, a wig shop, and Gojo admits they're all really beautiful. Marin reveals that she was actually planning to go shopping alone, but she would have made a ton of mistakes if she'd done that, so she's glad he came with her today. So he smilingly remarks that he's actually being helpful today. As they're walking back home, Gojo says he'll just take the things they bought to his place, so she thanks him and wonders where she should go cosplay once they're done with the suit. She explains that there are events focused on taking group photos, big photo shoots at amusement parks, studio photo shoot, or you could just take the pictures at your home. Marin adds that you can upload them to social media as well, and shows him photos of another cosplayer who looks pretty young. She asks Gojo if the cosplays aren't cute since he isn't saying anything, but he says it's not that and apologizes for making her feel awkward. He reveals that after he first saw a Hina doll, the word beautiful meant a lot to him, so he can't say anything's beautiful unless he truly feels it. She says that's important to have too, and suddenly notices a food truck. She gets a snack for her as Marin says she'll have to work another job now. Gojo hurriedly says he'll pay her back for the ramen, but she assures him it's fine because she liked hanging out today. She admits she didn't expect him to play Moe Girls too, but he probably knows more about the game than her, so she wanted to thank him. She asks if he wants to take a bite, but Gojo remarks that makes it an indirect kiss and nervously says he's fine, like a dumb loser who can't be comfortable around girls. Hearing this, Marin slowly asks if he thinks she's a huge glutton and annoyingly insists that she totally won't gain weight, she just can't feel full until she has rice. Gojo asks when the event she's visiting is going to be held, so Marin says it's 2 weeks and says goodbye as she runs to the train station. However, Gojo shockingly realizes it's in 2 weeks from now. On the train, Gojo remarks that it will take him twice as long to make fully sized clothes than it takes for a Hina doll, but this is his first time, so he's not sure he's capable of making the suit in 2 weeks. Gojo arrives home and informs his grandpa that he went shopping with a friend, so his grandpa asks what he went shopping for, and suddenly falls down upon seeing something fall out of the bag. Gojo takes his grandpa to a hospital where his cousin, Mayuri, worryingly arrives as well. She tells her grandpa that he should rest for the coming weeks, and her dad said he can stay at their place until he recovers, so he agrees, and she invites Gojo to stay over for the night as well. The next day, Gojo tells Marin he'll go check on his grandpa today as well, so she tells him to just say it, if there's anything she can do for him, since despite how she looks, she can cook pretty well. They decide to swap phone numbers just in case, and Gojo remarks that he couldn't get any work done on the outfit yesterday or the day before. Gojo suddenly remembers that he has exams on top of taking care of Grandpa and sewing the outfit. Later at the shop, Gojo receives a call from someone who asks if they can come to their shop for a tour since their friend is really interested in Hina dolls. He tries to tell them that they can't do it tomorrow, but they say their friend is leaving Japan after tomorrow, so he agrees to hold it tomorrow, frustratingly wondering what he's gonna do now. The next day, once they're done with the exam, Gojo instantly rushes out of the classroom to head back and continue working on the dress, which concerns Marin, who hopes he's doing okay. In his room, Gojo remarks that he's feeling sick, so it seems like he hasn't slept enough, but he still hasn't gotten anywhere with the outfit. He remarks that he hasn't practiced painting for days and wonders what happens if he isn't able to become a Hina doll maker. He frustratingly questions why he sucks at everything and slowly gets up to work after remembering what Marin and his grandpa said to him. I hope this girl's paying him well because this is slavery, bro. Later, Marin is shocked to see the dress, so he mutters that it came down to the wire, but he still managed to make it. Stunned to see the dress, so he mutters that it came down to the wire, but he still managed to make it. Stunned, she asks if he thought she was going to participate in today's event and realizes how hard it must be to make these dresses in such a short span of time. She reveals that she was planning to wait for him to finish it, hearing which Gojo wearily collapses and says that's good since it looks like he had time to spare after all. Seeing his worn-out expression, Marin starts crying and says she had no idea he was working on the outfit when he had so many other things to worry about. She repeatedly apologizes and admits she should have been more considerate, but Gojo also apologizes for going ahead without mentioning it to her, but she continues apologizing. Gojo cheerily asks if she wants to try the dress on since it's done anyway, and they can also see how well it fits her, so she happily thanks him and says she's up for it. As they're doing Marin's makeup, Gojo mutters that he hopes that one day he'll be able to make Hina dolls as pretty as his grandpa makes them, so she says she's sure he'll be able to, and sees how he looks when he smiles. Once they're done, Marin slowly asks Gojo if she's become a proper Shizuku, so he happily agrees that she looks just like him, and she excitedly agrees. Gojo asks how the fit is, so she says it's perfect and might be a little hard to move, and since she can't raise her arms that high. Gojo sees that he should take comfort and mobility into consideration as well, but Marin excitedly says he's a beast since he nailed everything in Shizuku's outfit. She asks him to take some photos of her, so he says they just look like they're photos of her, so he believes she should pose like Shizuku, since it is a cosplay after all. They decide to take the picture in a plain background, but Marin still can't stop smiling like an idiot, and she says her happiness levels are off the charts, but she'll restrain herself for the next one. Gojo happily says she turned into Shizuku for the next one, and they take a bunch more photos, so she happily decides to make an account and post them right now. After posting the images, she asks Gojo if he wants to go to the event tomorrow since she wants to participate now. In the event, Marin is overjoyed to see the cosplays of all her favorite characters and says she's really happy, but Gojo mutters that there are women everywhere around him, so he feels a bit out of place. Marin notices that people keep staring at them and says it must be because of how cute her outfit is, but Gojo believes it must be because he doesn't belong here. They go to the upper square and Marin sees that the mood here is much more relaxed. A guy asks Marin if he can take a photo of her and recognizes her from Moe Girls too, so she happily agrees and takes a photo with him as well as a keepsake. Gojo sees that a line has already formed of people wanting to take pictures with Marin, so she must be pulling off the Shizuku demeanor really well. He sees that here, everyone can cosplay their favorite characters without worrying about a thing, which is nice. He realizes he and Marin won't be hanging out much anymore since he's kept his promise to her. So it feels like it was all a dream and it was fun. Marin rushes over to him and says she's feeling really hot since she put up an extra layer of cloth on her chest. My guy Gojo needs to get away from her or else he's going to embarrass himself. Surprised? Gojo says there wasn't any room for extra layers, so she must be feeling really suffocated. They head to a staircase where she drinks some juice and applies cooling pads on her head, so Gojo embarrassingly decides to check if there's anything else they can do. Gojo fixes her zipper for her to make it so it doesn't suffocate her. Marin asks if they can go back to the plaza, so he agrees. Marin approaches a girl and apologizes for not being able to take a picture of her before, so the girl suggests they should take it in the shade. Later, as Gojo and Marin are heading back on the train, she sees that the train is really empty, so Gojo thanks her since this was a good experience and he really enjoyed it. She happily agrees and thanks him as well before asking what they should do for her next cosplay. Surprised, Gojo asks if Shizuku wasn't enough, so she insists that she has like 50 favorite characters. She teasingly says he looks pretty happy about it, so Gojo says he'd be happy to work with her and she agrees. Marin sees that Gojo seems to be dozing off and says he can take a nap if he wants, so he agrees. Marin says she was really happy to be around so many people, so he agrees and says she looked special before dozing off. Marin remembers what Gojo said about not being able to call something beautiful unless he really means it and starts furiously blushing. Gojo's grandpa returns to the house to shockingly see Gojo holding a dress and Marin beside him. Later, his grandpa learns what it was and apologizes to Marin for causing the ruckus, so Gojo confirms that they didn't do anything indecent. His grandpa says the dress he's made for her is excellent, but Gojo says there are a lot of things he needs to improve on. Seeing him talking to his grandpa, Marin puzzlingly wonders if she's seriously in love with Gojo. She realizes this is really bad since she doesn't know what to do, but Gojo and his grandpa suddenly hear her stomach grumbling. Gojo asks if she's hungry and his grandpa says she can eat with them tonight if she wants. Later, as they're eating, Marin sees that Gojo can cook really well too, so he says he does all the cooking since his mother fell ill and passed away back when, and it's just him and his dad now, but his dad had to move away for work some time ago. She shows them the food she cooks, and they're both surprised by how greasy the food looks, so Gojo's grandpa slowly asks if she doesn't get sick from eating those. He tells her to eat dinner with them from now on if it's good with her, and he agrees. Later, Gojo walks Marin to the station, so she blushingly says she'll see him again soon and heads inside. The next day, it starts raining and Gojo's grandpa sees a girl approaching the house to not get herself wet any further, so he wonders if she's Gojo's friend and asks if she's alright. When Gojo returns from school, his grandpa informs him that his friend came here, so he let her take a bath since she was completely drenched. As his grandpa leaves, Gojo wonders who he let in here since he doesn't have a friend other than Marin, who said she'd be working today. He wonders if this is a new burglary scheme and if his grandpa got scammed, but he unexpectedly sees the girl naked inside before she collapses in shock. Later, Gojo apologizes to the girl and asks what the purpose of her visit was today, so she asks if he's the one who makes outfits and reveals that she's actually a sophomore, surprising him. She sure as hell doesn't low-oak like a sophomore. He notes down her details and says she can take a look at the outfits now, smilingly remarking that he's happy to see that someone else is interested in Hina dolls. The girl praises the designs and seriously asks why they're looking at Hina dolls when she's here for cosplay outfits. She shows him some pictures of Marin dressed as Shizuko and says she came here to order cosplay outfits, but Gojo mutters that he's not doing that as a business. The girl declares that she could report him for peeing on her and warns that if he doesn't want that, he will make an outfit for her, Juju. Surprised, Gojo remembers the young cosplayer Marine showed him and realizes this girl is the cosplayer. Later, Marin arrives, so Gojo introduces the girl, Inui Sejuna, to her, but she annoyingly tells him to just use her official name. Marin excitedly introduces herself and says she's a huge fan before Gojo tells her that Inui saw the photos of her, which is why she wanted her to be here. Marin is overjoyed to hear that, but Inui hurriedly says she was interested in Gojo's work, not her. No. She tells Gojo that she wants him to make her Nikadu Shien's Black Lily outfit, so Marin tells Gojo about the plot of the show. Inui is surprised that she knows about it, since she thought she was the type to cosplay just to wear cute outfits and knows nothing about the character. Inui explains that she doesn't want to compromise since the Black Lily outfit is way too intricate to just modify and off the shelf one, so she wants him to make him a maid to measure one. Marin says she really likes Shien too, but she's too tall for the character, so the one she wants to cosplay from Fiflo is Neon. Inui annoyingly tells her to just do it then, inwardly questioning what's going on since she's the type of cosplayer she loves the most. A while later, Inui asks for Gojo's number so she can send him references for Shien as well as her measurements, and asks Marin to not misunderstand since she thinks they're a couple. However, Gojo hurriedly says that's not the case, seeing which Marin starts laughing and asks Inui if she wants to do a cosplay with her as Neon and Shien, but Inui instantly declines. Inui says she only does solo cosplays, and she's hiring a studio this time, so Marin excitedly says she wants to see it too, and offers to pay half of the fees, so Inui admits it's very expensive, and Gojo says he'll pay his share too, before revealing that he does Marin's makeup as well, which surprises Inui.
What?
As Inui is counting the expenses, Marin tells her to feel free to ignore the request, but she agrees to make an exception in this case, so Gojo decides to watch the anime as well and reveals that he played both Moe Girl games for research. Later, Gojo tells his grandpa that he'll have to go to Marin's place to get the DVDs for the show, and remarks that he hasn't been practicing recently and has probably lost his touch, but his grandpa smilingly says he's gotten better, so making costumes for Marin must have been good for him. Later, Gojo arrives at Marin's place and brings some pudding, so she happily thanks him. However, as she goes in, he hurriedly tries to calm himself down. Marin asks Gojo if he wants to sit down and watch some episodes together, so he agrees and enters her room to see that it's filled with Moe Girl merch. As they're watching the show, Marin says she can't handle how Shien is so mean to everyone except Neon. A while later, Marin suddenly wonders if this is a date and remarks that it's been a while since they were alone together. Marin's stomach starts growling, so Gojo sees that she hasn't had anything other than the pudding since she just woke up, and she agrees. Gojo says they should get some food, but he suddenly remembers what Marin's cooking looks like and says he'll prepare the food. However, Marin tells him to leave it to her and blushingly wonders if she should make a special omelette for him. Later, as they start eating, Marin swears it looked better at one point and says he shouldn't force himself to eat it if he doesn't want to, but he says it tastes good, so she digs into hers as well. Later, Gojo calls Inui and asks if she's fine with the reference sheet he sent her, so she confirms that she is and asks if he always goes into this much detail with the clothes and admits that's impressive. Gojo says he looked at all her cosplay photos and learns that one can change the shape of their eyes through a method called taping. She's stunned to hear that the Shizuko dress was his first time making an outfit, and says they'll use her camera for taking the photos this time since her sister takes all her photos. Gojo asks if it's possible for her sister to teach him to use a camera as well, so she agrees and says they can meet at the family restaurant near their place since her sister is in junior high. Gojo texts Marin about the meeting, so she says she'll come too since she wants to learn how to use a camera too. She starts imagining what Inui's sister would look like, but Gojo is surprised by how big she is. Oh, I bet he's surprised by some huge factors. Marin excitedly tells the girl that she loves her pictures, so Inui reveals that she also came up with her alias and created her social media account. Marin sees that the girl, Shinju, really loves Inui, so she happily agrees. As they're discussing the camera, Marin asks if she doesn't want to cosplay herself since it's cute and super fun, but Shinju declines and says she just likes taking pictures of her sister. Gojo decides to check the price of the DSLR cameras and is shocked by how much they cost, so Marin says they'll have to stick with her phone until she's saved up enough for a camera. They decide to go check out the locations they can rent, and Gojo says the abandoned hospital is just like the hospital Black Lily took refuge in after being defeated by Princess Daisy's killer. He notices that Inui looks scared and asks if she's uncomfortable with these kinds of places, but she hurriedly rushes in. As Marin and Shinju are roaming, Marin learns that backlights are really useful to add a nice glow to the hair and says she'll have to tell Gojo about it. Meanwhile, Gojo tells Inui he can check out the locations so she can wait at the entrance if she's scared, since this is clearly stressing her out. She reveals that she wanted to be a magical girl when she grew up, but it's all a made-up world, so no matter how hard she worked or how strongly she wished, her dream of becoming a magical girl would never come true. However, when she was in junior high, she learnt that she could buy dresses. She admits her first cosplay was pretty bad, but it made her really happy, so she wants to realize her dream, even if it's all made up. Gojo asks why she came to him for such an important outfit, and suggests that she should reconsider, but she mutters that when she saw Marin's outfit, she decided she wanted her costume to be made by Tiat person. She says she can't really explain it well, but it was love at first sight for her with that outfit, and the fact that she felt envious of it surprised her, but it's only important things one feels that way about. Gojo recalls telling his grandpa he wants to make Hina dolls when he grows up like him, hearing which his grandpa says he can become as good as him if he practices. Presently, Gojo starts crying and thanks Inui, since he finally understands how his grandpa felt back then, and says he'll do his best so people feel the same way about dolls. However, Inui realizes this is the first time she's holding hands with someone of the opposite sex and suddenly collapses. Later in class, Marin tells Gojo they should go to the beach, and at the beach, she cheerily says this is perfect since there aren't many people here. Gojo asks if they came here to take photos, but she says it's beach time since it's summer right now, and Gojo shockingly remembers that that's the kind of person Marin is. A bird suddenly steals her burger, so Gojo throws their rice towards it to distract it and gives Marin his burger. As they're eating, Marin happily says the wind is really good, and he agrees before she gets up and says she's going to dip her feet in the water a bit since she didn't bring her swimsuit and came here on impulse. Marin tells him to come as well, so he complies and reveals that he's actually never been to the beach since he's been making Hina dolls since he was a kid and had too much fun drawing doll faces by copying what his grandpa did, so there are a lot of places he's never been to. He smilingly admits the ocean is beautiful. In that case, Marin says they should go to all kinds of places since it's almost summer break and just the two of them can have fun, so Gojo happily agrees. She decides to go drink some tea since she's a bit thirsty, but she remarks that she's going to die of embarrassment and sneakily takes a photo of him from afar. Gojo suddenly collapses in the water and shouts that the seaweed is all over him, seeing which Marin starts laughing. Marin shows Gojo her new swimsuit, but he embarrassingly asks if she can leave him alone for some time, so she teasingly asks if he's getting excited. Gojo hurriedly says the swimsuit is fine, but he just needs a moment alone. As they're working, she cheerily says she's happy she can help with the suit, but she still just painted a thing, so it's nothing too big. Later, Marin and Inui are really happy by what their costumes look like, so Gojo asks her to let him know if there's any problem. Seeing them talk, Marin remarks that she wants to say something that'll make her look smart too. Once Gojo is done with Marin's makeup, she excitedly asks if she's been Black Lobelia all along and declares that she can't wait for the session. However, it starts raining and Inui says it's still not that bad because the gloomy lighting goes with the costumes. As they're talking, Marin asks if she can take a selfie with her, so Inui agrees. They see that Shinju and Gojo are really taking their time since they still haven't arrived. Gojo and Shinju arrive, but Marin and Inui are shocked to see her. In a flashback from the day they were location scouting, Gojo apologizes to Inui for not being able to tell that she wasn't feeling well. As they go their separate ways, Shinju tells Inui she's going to look around the shops for a bit before going home. Once Inui has left, Gojo approaches Shinju and asks if she also wants to do cosplay, since he thought that maybe she just couldn't say it in front of Inui. Shinju admits she does actually want to, since there's a character she really likes. She's always been envious of her sister, but she can't do it, since she isn't cute like her sister and the character is completely different from her. She also wonders if her sister would hate her if she did a cosplay, and it wasn't good. However, Gojo suggests that they should try it if that's the case. Shinju asks him to help her cosplay and reveals that she also wants to dress as a character from Fairy Flower Princess. Gojo wonders who she's talking about, so she reveals that it's Suma, the male character. In that case, Gojo says she should join the current cosplay shoot, but keep it a secret until then. She slowly admits she's a bit chunky, so the clothes won't look good on her, and she only has pocket money. Gojo inwardly admits cosplay can be a costly hobby, but he believes they can still do something on a limited budget. Later, he tells Shinju they don't need to spend money on the costume, since they can just use their school uniform, which looks very similar. Shinju tries on the clothes, but they don't fit at all, so he wonders how they can present a more masculine shape. That's going to be a tall order. He realizes they can use a binding cloth to hide her curves, so she admits her hips are fine but her chest still stands out, and wearing a dress shirt makes her feminine physique clearly visible. They learn about a product named Beholder, but Gojo remarks that something like this will probably be expensive. However, they're surprised to see that it's really not and buy one right away. Later, Gojo informs Shinju that he got the wig for her and gets ready to cut the wig's hair for her. She praises him since he's skilled at everything, but Gojo starts praising someone from his class he really admires. He shows her all the cosmetics he bought and says their budget is still under 10,000 yen. Presently, Inui is shocked to see Shinju, who reveals that she also wanted to cosplay. Marin and Inui instantly start praising her, and Inui tells Shinju she's splendid since it suits her perfectly. Mari and Inui excitedly praise Shinju,
Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god!
And they all take a selfie together. Inu remarks that she's okay right now, but having everyone together makes being in an abandoned building bearable. As they're taking a picture, Inui is stunned by how happy Marin is and happily mutters that she hates those kinds of cosplayers, but there isn't nothing she can do about it. Inui asks Gojo if he only charged Shinju for the materials and tells him to not worry about it because she'll cover all the other fees for her. Gojo says he thought he'd help her out since she said she only had her allowance. She tells him he should be stricter for his money, but she's still grateful for what he did for Shinju. She berates herself because Shinju wasn't able to tell her she wanted to cosplay, but Gojo says it's scary telling others what you really wanted to do. It takes courage. Hearing this, Inu remarks that he really is wonderful. As Shinju is taking Marin's pictures, her beholder suddenly breaks. Later, as Inui and Shinju are looking at the photos, they discuss that the pictures turned out really nicely. Inui admits she was envious of Shinju's cosplay since she thought it was something she could never do. Shinju declares that when she gets to high school, she'll get a part-time job, save up money, and do cosplay. Inui agrees, so Shinju says she's glad they had others with them, and Inui agrees that they could do it again if they wanted. Marin calls Gojo and they discuss the photos before he reveals that once they were done with location scouting, Shinju came over to his place and they discussed her cosplay, hearing which Marin gets jealous because of course Gojo is a weirdo who likes young girls. Gojo sees that Marin's next outfit is for a character named Veronica and remembers how he said he could easily make it. He remarks that he finished quickly this time because the design is really minimalist. Marin arrives, so Gojo hurries to open the door and is shocked to see that her skin is completely tan, so she says she got it for Veronica. Marin goes to take a shower since she's really sweaty, so Gojo says he'll put some clothes in front of the bathroom for her. Gojo is embarrassed by the fact that Marin is wearing his sports clothes. They set up the background for their photo shoot, and Gojo reveals that he made the fangs for Veronica from nail chips and happily says they look really good on her. Later, Marin takes Gojo to Shibuya and says they'll get him some new clothes, since he complained that he only has traditional clothes. Gojo tries some clothes, and Marin blushingly wonders what she should do since she loves him in all of them. She inwardly admits she's totally frazzled because she loves him, but Gojo says he's feeling a bit uneasy since he's not used to wearing clothes like these. They spend the rest of the day in the shopping district, and Gojo apologizes since they picked out so many things and didn't end up buying anything, but she says it's totally fine. She asks when they should do the Veronica cosplay, but he suddenly reveals that he can't do it with her and asks if she can do it herself since the chest area for the Veronica dress is too narrow and he can't handle it. Hearing this, Marin laughingly says he had her worried for a second and blushingly admits she should just wear it at home since he went through all that trouble to create the costume for her. As they're walking, she suddenly grabs him and asks if she should send him photos, hearing which Gojo starts furiously blushing. Marin asks Gojo if they can take a break because of how hot it is, and they head to a manga cafe. However, Gojo remarks that she's sitting really close to him. He worryingly wonders why this booth is so cramped before she suggests a slice of life manga to him and says she really loves the succubus, Rizzu's pigtails. She says she really wants to cosplay as her, but she can't since the pigtails are too cutesy, and she's not that cute, it's not her style. She notices that Gojo is staring at her, and he says he thinks it'll definitely look good and will work out nicely, so she blushingly admits it must be good if he says it. He asks what a succubus is since he's never heard that term before, so she says it's a seductive female demon. Gojo asks if it's actually a wholesome series and reads it with a wholesome smile on his face. Marin goes to get some manga, so he remarks that he really likes slice of life manga and sees that the art style of the comic is really simplified, so he can't really tell what the clothes are like. He sees that he'll have to design it himself without relying on the source material too much. Later, as they leave the manga cafe, Gojo asks if they can stop at a bookshop since he wants to get some succubus books. Later, his grandpa smilingly sees that he got a jinbei, so he reveals that he got 2 sets. Later, Gojo nervously remarks that he's in a love hotel. The previous day, Marin texts Gojo that she's found a place which is perfect for their photo shoot, and it's really cheap as well, so Gojo said he had no idea there was a studio nearby, and she confirms that she's booked it. Presently, Marin takes him to room 303 and Gojo is shocked to see that they're in a love hotel. Well, that's definitely an eventful place for a photo shoot. He hurriedly asks why they're here, so she says she found a place that looked like Kanam's room and thought it was perfect. Gojo remarks that he just has to think of it as a studio, but he urgently remarks that he just can't do it. She says she'll go change since it's a waste of money if they don't make use of it now. As she's changing, Gojo decides to put some TV to calm himself, but he realizes it really is a love hotel. Marin happily says the costume he made for her looks great, so he says he studied up on succubus a lot and decided to go for a cuter look. She assures him that it's totally fine if this is his own interpretation since he makes the best outfits. After Gojo has done Marin's makeup, he says there are scenes he wants her to recreate from the manga. They take a lot of photos and Gojo says he just wants to do one more scene in which Rizz sings Kaname a lullaby. Gojo sees that the shot doesn't look right and says, it might look better if she stares into the camera. He lies down on the bed and asks her to get on top of him so that they can take the shot, so she complies and happily says the shot looks great. Marin says every part of cosplaying is really fun, and he agrees that he's having a lot of fun too, but they suddenly hear voices coming from next door. He remembers that they're in a love hotel and realizes he got too into the photography process, and he told her to get on top of him. He hurriedly tells her to get off of him, but she accidentally drops her phone, which turns off the lights. As they're staring at each other, they slowly get closer to each other, but the telephone suddenly starts beeping and are informed that their time has run out, so Marin slowly goes to change. Marin and Gojo awkwardly leave the hotel, and later at night, he embarrassingly keeps thinking about it. As Gojo is working on the dolls, he sees fireworks outside before Marin texts him. Marin thanks Gojo for coming over to help her study, so he says it's fine since he wanted to check the ribbon placements as well, and says he's sorry that she couldn't go to the summer festival with her father, and she says he just canceled on her. He asks what kind of job she does and is shocked to see that she's a fashion model. He says she looks really different in the magazine, so she says a pro does her makeup, and that's why she wants a DSLR as well. Marin suggests that they should watch a horror movie and tells him to not worry, because it won't be that scary. Later, when the movie ends, Gojo happily says that was incredible, and she weakly mutters that it wasn't scary at all. Gojo decides to rewind to a specific scene to learn more about the makeup and excitedly says he can learn a lot from this, so she hurriedly turns away. As they sit down to study, Marin alarmingly realizes she forgot her workbook at school, so they head back and Gojo asks if she wants to come over for dinner since he's going to buy groceries now. Marin notices the swimming pool and goes to check it out since they haven't had a swimming class. She decides to dip her foot in, but she accidentally falls into the pool, so he quickly takes her out and is shocked to see that she can't swim. She says she really likes sitting on the beach, listening to the waves, so even if she can't swim, she wanted to go. She asks if that's weird, but he says he knows how she feels since he can't make pretty-looking hyena doll faces, but he still likes making them. Marin gets up and says she's going to try finding a summer fest for them. She asks if he wants to go with her, and he agrees. Gojo heads to the summer festival and remarks that he didn't know it got so crowded at events, and that just meeting up will be difficult. Marin approaches him and apologizes for not finding him sooner, but he's surprised by how beautiful she looks and says he loves that she put on a yukata. She sees that he looks flustered and asks if he's captivated by her nape, so he hesitantly mutters that Japanese clothing is really nice, which surprises Marin, and remarks that she's really happy she wore the yukata. As they're going through the festival, Marin happily goes from stall to stall, and Gojo remarks that they really got a lot like a young son being dragged around by his shopaholic mom. He reveals that this is the first time he's come to the square to watch fireworks, so she says that's a waste since he lives really close by. Gojo watches the fireworks in awe and remarks that a year ago, he was holed up in his room and fireworks were just distant sounds he heard from his room, but it's different this year. He slowly turns towards Marin, who jokingly shows him her blue-colored tongue from the candy. Later, Gojo sees that the chafing on Marin's foot is really bad, so it must be tough for her to walk in. He decides to get some band-aids from nearby, but she convinces him to carry her and says he's really tall. As they're walking, she remarks that no matter what happens, you end up with mixed feelings about the whole thing, so she apologizes about that and promises to be more careful from next year. She suggests that they should go to this festival next year as well, and he agrees before Marin proposes that they can go to all the summer festivals in Kanto if they just put their mind to it. As Gojo finishes up work, he receives a call from Marin, who says she's really scared because she watched Terror Call 2, and every little sound is making her scared since she watched it alone this time. She alarmingly asks what she should do since it's destroying her sanity and asks him to stay on the phone with her for a while. Later, they both lie down to sleep and talk to each other on the speaker. Marin notices that Gojo is about to fall asleep and remarks that they've done a lot together and it's been a blast. She hears that Gojo has fallen asleep and confesses her love for him before happily admitting she should sleep too. She says good night to him and smilingly says she'll see him soon before cutting the call.